This week's conference is this video. So I'm really grateful if you're able to watch the video and join me in this week's teachings and homework. And then we will be back to our normal scheduled program next Sunday and continue on with our studies of ascending into our lightness. So we have gotten to our heart and our throat, and we're talking about rather than being the amazing shrinking human being, to be your muchiness, your most expansive self, and not just physiologically in your body, but in your spirit. And so as we ascend from the heart into this first spirit chakra, we are looking at how do we show up and live our daily lives as spirit beings in human bodies, and how do we be our most beautiful, lightest self in all the little minutiae and details of our life where it matters the most. You know, spirituality is not about sitting in silence in a yoga room and chanting Om and reciting prayers in perfect Sanskrit and wearing cloaks of a sannyasi or a monastic or a priest. But spirituality is about how we live our lives. It really happens in the details of this one wild, precious life. And so this week I'm really excited for you to join me for our studies. And I'd like you to use, of course, Carolyn Meese, Anatomy of the Spirit, which we have been studying. But I'd like you to use Patricia's Sunday Morning Musings, the one we just had this past Sunday, that my mom did on Mary Oliver. And I'd like you to read the entire musing because it's beautiful. One of my favorite articles written about Mary Oliver by a friend of hers. And then mom includes some poetry and different things. And it's a beautiful musing. And I would like you to write down the question, which is Mary Oliver's question. Tell me, what is it you plan to do with your one wild, precious life? And we're going to unpack that next week. And I would like you to spend this week preparing for it because Mary is, for me, one of my spiritual inspirations. Her poetry is, as well for my mom and bazillions of other people. And I like to sometimes use poetry and music and different things for me to create this support system for myself and how I show up. And I love this question that Mary asked because it isn't about sitting and meditating or chanting. It's about life. It's about living. And it's a big question. And so this week we're going to spend a little time preparing for it because I believe that when we can really answer this question, it helps us, as Viktor Frankl says, you know, in his title of his book, Man's Search for Meaning, it helps us get clarity around what gives our life meaning and what choices do we want to make today on how we live. And so in Mom's Musing, she has an interview with Maria Shriver. And I love this interview because Mary answers her own question quite simply and beautifully. So please read the musing. In your preparation for answering this question next week, I wanted to use a poem that Mom includes, which is Mary Oliver's poem on gratitude. And the very last line, I'm going to start with the last line of the poem. She says, "So the gods shake us from our sleep." And for me, I believe that it's my autopilot, or it's my, zombie way of walking through life sometimes where I'm unconscious. We talked about this last week, where I'm mindless rather than mindful. We talked about the Buddha, like I believe our spirituality lies in our awakening, to everything, the good, the bad, the ugly, and how we show up for it all. And so that is the last question, which I think it's, let's wake up from our slumber. And then above that, she has some great Mary Oliver questions. So I thought these questions could prepare us for kind of looking at the details of our life this week, and then answering that bigger question next week as we look at continuing our studies of being spiritual beings in our human bodies. And as I say that, I want to remind you of our studies where I said, I'm not Mother Teresa. I'm Diana, but I am Mother Teresa, and that I want to live my passions and my beliefs, and I want to show up every day in what little tasks are ahead of me, what people are on my path, to be my most golden and most beautiful self and make this world a better place, because I'm making my world a better place, my day a better place, anyone in my life feeling loved and appreciated and respected. So here are the questions. You ready? This is your homework for this week. So let's answer these questions. What did you notice? I think sometimes waking us out of slumber means we forget to notice something beautiful in nature. We forget to notice the sound of laughter with the person we love the most. We forget to notice, and it goes on. So what did you notice today? What did you hear? So we're going to tap into our senses, and here again could be like the sound of the hummer's wings. It could be a great song. What did you hear? Could be messages to you, like what was calling you. Just open yourself up to these questions. What astonished you? One of my favorite, this is in another poem by Mary Oliver, but I love the word astonished. And I think when we're not astonished, we're definitely in autopilot or some type of personal slumber. So think about what's astonishing you. Someone the other day, I gave them a book about gut health, just random. It was just my favorite book on gut health. And she responded by saying, "This is rocking my world. This is astonishing me. It's new information. That new information can astonish us." So as always, I'm giving you some ideas. What do you admire? That's a great one. If you can identify what you admire, it helps us also identify what it is we want to reach for, the qualities in someone. Anyway, what would you like to see again? Sunsets, birds, the person you love. This reminds me of impermanence, so that's a great question. What was most tender? Reaching towards a question that asks us about our softness. Again, things that Mary asks us are things a lot of times we take for granted. And so this idea of tender, soft, open-hearted. What was most wonderful? And I like this one at the end of a day, to spend some time in gratitude or reflection to say, what was wonderful about today? What a great way to fall asleep. What did you think was happening? And again, I think this just kind of breaks down the mysteries of life, what's going on, what's happening. I welcome you to add questions to Mary Oliver's questions. I think when I read these, I start thinking of my own questions. Like if I'm thinking of Diana's search for meaning, what gives my life meaning? It helps to have these questions that give me reason to open my hands up and look around and say, what if I know what it is I'm looking for, I'm more able to find those things in my day, So again, we are spirit beings in human bodies, but we forget. Mary Oliver is such a beautiful inspiration, one of many, to help us remember our goldenness and our purpose and our life's passions. So join me in answering Mary's questions this week. And next week we'll come back together and we're going to go up through the throat into the head and open up even bigger into our wider, most spiritual, energetic, brightest self in the moments of our lives, how we spend these wild, precious moments of our lives.